At St. Cloud State University, athletics are more than just games. They're an essential part of the Husky experience. From D1 hockey games to championship-winning wrestling, volleyball, and more, there's Husky pride in every corner of campus. Whether you're on the field, in the stands, or cheering from the student section, you're a part of something big. And the best part? SCSU is close to home, affordable, and packed with community that's got your back, in class and on the court. Come see what it means to be a Husky. Schedule your campus tour today at St. Cloud State University, the home of the Huskies.
For the Indians, one run on, let's see, one hit. That's all. We got one goddamn hit.
You can't say goddamn on the air.
Don't worry, nobody's listening anyway.
From the Gateway Lounge in Sioux Falls, it's Nobody's Listening Anyway. Here are your hosts, John Gaskins and Matt Zimmer.
Hey, it's June, and believe it or not, there's some things to talk about. The scandal that has rocked college football, the latest one, the Sorsby thing, right?
Oh, yeah.
Texas Tech? Yeah, we'll get into that. Gambling, and oh my gosh, no one's going to play Texas Tech now. We will not associate ourselves with that cesspool over there in Lubbock. That's pretty ridiculous. All these Big 10, Big 12, even the University of Georgia saying, we're not going to play Texas Tech anymore. That's a bit much. We have UND, and by comparison, what happened with them in the NCAA, and plenty more. Of course, now the revisionist history of Karl Anthony Towns comes to light with the New York Knicks up in the NBA Finals. But it's good to be here. Gateway with Zim. Bud Light coming right on cue in the Jackrabbit's glass, which, of course, he's a big Jackrabbit homer, so, it fits very well. How was your trip to the Twin Cities and the Minnesota Twins with the fam?
It was fun. Did excuse me. Did Valley Fair, did the Twins-Royals game on Sunday, the one where they were down 6-1 in the ninth and then scored 4 runs in the bottom of the ninth, almost won. We stayed for the end, so that was fun. And
because it was looking bleak before that.
It was a pretty boring game. And my dad actually said in the bottom of the eighth, he's like, "Should we just go?" Because we got a 4-hour drive.
Yeah.
And I said to him, I kind of looked. I go, this is probably the only game any of us in our family are going to be at this summer. So let's just stay. It's the one trip we're going to make all summer. Okay. And then 4 runs, and I mean, Brooks Leaf flied out to the warning track for the last out. I mean, looked off his bat for a second like he had hit a walk-off homer or maybe a double to tie it, and guy catches it at the track. And it's like, Jen actually made the comment to me like, that's the most fun I've ever had watching the Twins lose.
Oh,
because that ninth inning kind of made the first 8 worth it. So yeah, it was a beautiful day, beautiful weekend. We had a great time. So yeah, it was a success.
That's usually the attitude I'll have, especially if I've gone on the road to go to some game. I've driven a few hours to go somewhere to an event. That's kind of, we put in all this time.
Right.
It'd be really silly to not see if something cool happens, because if something cool happens, that'll be really cool.
Yeah.
Because it'll be at the end. It'll be a big comeback.
I went to a Twins game in 03 or 04, the Shannon Stewart season, when they acquired him at the deadline, and he was kind of their spark. And we were at the game, and they were losing like 6-2 in the 8th. And I was like 23, 24, so kind of prime bar era. I was like, I just want to go to the bar. Yeah. So I remember I talked my girlfriend at the time into leaving. She wanted to stay. She said, let's stay. I was like, no, let's go to the bar. They're going to lose. And by the time we got to whatever bar, like we're just walking in, and Shannon Stewart hit a walk-off homer in the 10th, and they went to extra innings, and so we would have,
Yeah.
But I just remember being like, God, you're an idiot. Like, what do you, So I've never really done that since, unless it was really bad, if it's like 12-1 or something. But I kind of learned my lesson that game.
Yeah, my all-timer on the reverse. Well, I've got one where I never went to the game. There was just a humdrum Nebraska Northwestern football game back when I was living and working in Lincoln. And it was like the one game in 5 years at home that I didn't go to because I had a media pass to every game. But I had to go home. I lived about 2 miles from the stadium, and we did a tailgate show before the games about halfway in between downtown. between my place and the stadium, and it was downtown. And I just had to go home to get something. And then at the time, I'm kind of like, I was just like, this is a nothing game. Nebraska's out of contention for anything. And, so I asked my uncle, you want to come over and watch? I think I got to go home and get something anyway. I think
Let's just hang out.
watch. I might leave at halftime. And so he came over. We watched most of the thing. And I'm like, well, this is a good game. It was a close game going into the fourth quarter. I kind of like, well, I usually cover post game, so I probably ought to get going. But I don't know when. You're just kind of waiting, like, do I do it this time out, that time out? My uncle was having a good time watching, I'm like, oh, now I just kind of want to stay and see what happens with him. And it was a Hail Mary. It was famous Ron Kellogg Hail Mary, that one of the best moments in Memorial Stadium history. It didn't mean a whole lot, but it was an incredible 50-yard touchdown pass to win the game. And so part of me was like, I got to watch that with Jeff. And part of me was like, I wasn't there. So, but the big one in the Twin Cities was the Brett Favre to Greg Lewis game, the first ever.
You were at that game?
I was at that game.
And you left early?
Nope.
Oh, okay.
That's the one where I'm really glad I didn't. But so many people were leaving.
Right.
It was a boring Niners-Vikings game. It was Brett Favre's first home game as regular season as a Viking. And they were losing like 14-10 and couldn't get a first down. And the 49ers took over with about a minute and a half left, but the Vikings had 3 timeouts. And I'm up in the cheap seats in the Metrodome, but there's a bunch of people leaving. And I just remember, like, there was no decision. Like, your little indecision at your game this weekend, I get. They're down 5 runs. But the Vikings are just down by
a score.
4 points.
Yeah.
And people are getting up and grumpy, slumping up and leaving, and, that urgency of, I got to beat the traffic.
I think it is different, like, for us to go to any one of those games, whether it's a Nebraska football game now or a Vikings Twins, like, we're driving 4 hours, so it's kind of like, I made this trip. I'm going to stay. If you live there, I can sort of see, like, like I leave Canaries games in the 7th inning once in a while just because it's like, I can come back anytime. It's a little different.
Yeah, but even if you're a season ticket holder and it's Favre's first, can't you compute in your mind like
a 1-score game,
3 timeouts. It's the Mike Singletary 49ers. They're not very good. What do you know? They're going to run it right into the pile 3 times in a row, and the Vikings are going to call 3 timeouts and get the ball back. And oh, by the way, Brett Favre's going to throw a 40-yard laser to Greg Lewis. And for one of the greatest moments in Metrodome history.
Incredible throw.
Yeah.
To this day, I don't think, like, you watch that replay and you're like, Jesus Christ, what a throw. Yeah. I mean, the accuracy and the velocity. And he was what, 39, 40?
Yeah.
I mean, good God. Because the first couple games, he had kind of been, okay, he's old. They can't air it out with him like the Packers did.
Yeah.
They mostly just ran the ball. It's like, okay, we got old Favre.
Yeah.
And he made that throw, and it's like, oh, wait. He's still Brett Favre, and after that was when he took off.
And it was an incredible catch in the back of the end zone by Greg Lewis.
But he's like their 5th receiver.
Hadn't done a thing.
Yeah, and he had like 10 catches that whole year. Yeah,
and it was incredible. But I remember going out of my mind. Not that I was mad at the fans that were leaving. I'm not a diehard Vikings fan anyway. I was just going, what a bunch of idiots.
Yeah.
Like, even if you live in town and are a Viking season ticket holder, you still drove all this way, no matter how far it was. All the parking, all the
and
money
once
you
a week.
spend.
It's not like Twins games where it's a 3-game series or
all
whatever.
The money you spend, and then you spent 3.5 hours to get to this point.
Yeah.
What's another 10 minutes to find out if they win or not? And Gilbert, but I was doing that rant, and Gilbert's like, "Save it for the show tomorrow." It's just like, I get it. Like, will you shut up? They're stupid. We're here, great. And then what happened. And then how was Valley Fair?
Good.
That's an interesting, because you're at the parental age, where it's probably not as cool to go. Well, I don't know. And did you go to the water park?
We did. Last year we didn't go to the water park. This year we did, which made it a little more fun.
Yeah.
We stood in line to go all the way up the thing and take the slides down.
But you participated?
Yeah.
You got the swimsuit on and got in some water? Okay.
I'm much more, like, I don't do rides. I get motion sick really easy. I wouldn't say I'm scared of heights, although a little.
Yeah.
Like, this funny story. Like, about 15 years ago, my buddy Phil calls me one day, and he's like, hey, want to go to Wild Water West? And I hadn't been to Wild Water West since I was a kid at the time. I was like, yeah, that kind of sounds like fun. Why not? It's a summer day. Let's go drink beer and hang out. And so we get there, and I was probably 28, 29 years old at the time, and I hadn't been there since I was like 12, 13. And we get there and it's all right, let's go down the slides, So I'm getting in line. We're taking the stairs up to the top. And the whole time I'm not even thinking about what I'm about to do. I'm just in line with my buddy and we're talking about whatever. And we get to the very top. And then I suddenly remember like, oh, I don't really do this. Like, I'm kind of scared of heights. Like, I don't do and we're not talking the slow, fun one. I'm talking the one that goes boom, straight down. That was what I was in line for. And I guess I had just assumed I'm an adult now. That won't bother me.
Yeah.
And we get up there and I look down and I'm like, oh, fuck. and like, there's kids behind me in line, and I'm like, obviously I'm not going to like chicken out, but I'm kind of like, well, I got to do this now. And Phil could kind of see me hesitating, like, you all right? I'm like, no, I'm good. You go first. He goes down, and I'm like, well, I guess we're doing this shit. And I get on the slide, and it's the one that goes straight down. Like, your butt actually comes off the slide for a second before you go down.
I remember.
Which is kind of the scary part.
Yes. Like, am I going to fly off this thing?
So I go down, and, I mean, it was fun. Like, I had never done anything like that before. And for the brief second where my butt came off the slide and I thought I was going to die, that was terrifying. And then you're going down, and you're like, oh, this is awesome. I get it. I see why people do this. I get to the bottom, and, I'm soaked or whatever, and it has the long, you sort of, to slow you down. And I get down there, and I stand up, and I'm kind of brushing myself off, and Phil's like, you didn't have to scream like a girl. And I go, ha, ha. And the guy standing right there goes, no, dude, you were screaming like a girl. I was like, oh, I didn't know that, but apparently I was.
Well.
And I maybe have done it a couple times since then, but not really. And then last year we did this Valley Fair trip for the first time, and Arthur wanted to go on a couple of the roller coasters. And I was like, okay, but I'm not. And he's like, why, you scared? I was like, no, I'm scared. I get motion sick really easy, and I hadn't brought any Dramamine or anything. I was like, I'll throw up if I go on a roller coaster. So you go, I'll watch. Mom can go because Jen doesn't get sick. So Jen and Arthur go on the corkscrew, which is like the full loop-de-loop where you go upside down and everything. And Jen had a blast. Arthur was kind of like, that was fun, but I don't want to do that again. I was like, yeah, I get it. And so we're kind of bouncing around or whatever, and Arthur's like, I want to try one more that's not as scary. And they have the one I think it's called Excalibur. It's like got the wooden, everything's made out of wood, essentially. It's probably the oldest one there. Yeah. And I just kind of glance over, and it looks like it's just sort of a mostly horizontal, And I was like, all right, I'll go on that one with you. I can handle that. So we get over, we're in line, and we get to the front of the line, and the exact same thing that happened to me at Wildwater West. I look over, and I had not noticed that there was it's a real roller coaster. And I'm 45 years old and have never been on a roller coaster in my life.
Oh, really? You've
nope,
never been
never
on
had
one?
Nope. I get sick on, like, Ferris wheels.
Okay.
Like, it's not a scared thing. Like, I just can't. I get sick on planes. I get sick on buses. I just can't do it. So I'm like, oh, shit, I didn't realize this is a real roller coaster. And Arthur's like, well, too late. You're going now. Okay, so we get on. And the good thing is that happens so fast, you don't really have time to get sick, Yeah. But we go up the thing, and I'm like, God damn it, God damn it, God damn it. And it goes down, and I'm just hating it. I'm like, I hate this. And we got done, and I was pretty nauseous. I didn't barf, but I was like, I can't. Arthur's like, you okay? I'm like, I'll be all right, but that's the last one we're doing today. And I kind of walked away from it going, well, at least now I can say I have been on a roller coaster in my life. Because I kind of planned on dying without ever having done it.
You're going to be okay with
and then this year we came back. He's like, you want to do Excalibur again? I was like, nope, I'm good.
Did it.
So I did the water park, and I think that was actually it. I didn't do any other rides. I just babysat the kids, basically.
Oh, is it the kid? Oh, okay.
I mean, the whole family was there. So there were 20 of us, like 10 kids in age 10 or under. So, yeah, it was a lot of kid wrangling.
So were you like going with the people who were going to the rides to watch?
I mean, I was just kind of walking from ride to ride with them, and I'll hold your whatever while you go do the thing.
God, that sounds awful. You were okay with this?
Sure. I mean, it's a beautiful day. It's nice.
Okay.
Yeah. They had beer.
Well, that makes everything a little easier. Yeah. Yes.
No, it's fun.
Love roller coasters.
I mean,
I love roller
it's kind of when we do this trip, Valley Fair Saturday, Twins game Sunday. It's kind of Valley Fairs for the kids, Sundays for Kirk and Matt, basically.
Yeah.
So,
God. Yeah. Love it. Yeah. Cordell, roller coasters. You a roller coaster guy or not? Love them. Yeah, me too. Love them. If
go to the one at Cedar Point.
He wants to go. Oh, Cedar Point, Ohio. Yeah. Yeah.
That's the fastest one in the U.S.
Have you been to Valley Fair somewhat recently? Like, they have it's called the Wild Thing.
Yeah.
I think it's 200 feet high. It's pretty. My sister did it, and she's like, "Oh, it was awesome." I was like, "I barfed watching you."
I remember.
And then they have this one now where it's called Steel Venom. Yeah, where it goes horizontal. You're like hanging from your shoulders, like you just strap in on your shoulders, and your legs are dangling free.
Yeah.
And it goes probably 50 yards straight horizontal, but it gets like from 0 to 80 miles an hour like that, and you boom like that, and you go up this thing like this, and then back down and up here. Like that, and I literally got sick watching my family do it. Like, it doesn't. I don't know if it shakes you. It's just when you go up, you spit. It's like a corkscrew thing, and you get all the way to the top, and it kind of pauses for a second, and then gravity pulls you down, and takes you all the way back up the other side, and then it kicks up again. You do 1, 2, 3, and then done, and. It's really fast, and the scary thing to me watching it is when they go up, because they're just strapping you in by your shoulders, like their legs are just flailing all over the place, and I just watch it. I go, that is not for me.
Yeah, I mean, obviously that was safety approved somehow, some way.
Right. Yeah.
You're not supposed. You can't die. You're not supposed to die. Wow, that does sound terrifying. So I'm guessing you relate to the kids in the Sandlot when they did the chewing tobacco and then they went on the ride. They were all.
That would have been. I wouldn't have needed the chewing tobacco to be barfing.
Right, you related to that.
I went on. Do you remember the Galvatron? That was
that a Valley Fair thing?
It was like, well, it's not at Valley Fair now. It was an '80s thing. They had it at the Sioux Empire Fair. They had different names for it. It's like this little spaceship looking thing, and you climb in. And you lay on the wall, sort of, and you're just laying like on a mat, and it spins around so fast that the floor will open up, and you'll stick to the wall.
Yes.
And you can like crawl around on the wall and everything because it's going around so fast.
Yes.
I did that when I was like 10, and I didn't barf on it, but I barfed when I got off.
Yeah.
And like I had a little more of a tolerance when I was a kid. The older I've gotten, the less tolerant I am of motion sickness. So now I can't. I mean, I'll get sick using a hula hoop for 30 seconds. I mean, I just can't, any kind of circular motion or whatever.
So yes, I do. Yeah, we did at Galvatrons. That we had an amusement park in Omaha that got demolished years ago. That had one of those, and Adventureland, Des Moines, Worlds of Fun, Kansas City. Those are the big amusement parks that we would go out of town for. And that one was that might. And I loved roller coasters and all the other ones. But that one was like, this is nuts. This is really like you're in a horror movie. Like you're being locked in a prison, and you're all there to die. And you're a kid. You're not rationalizing like, no, this has been done a million times. You're going to be okay. Right. You're just like, I can't believe this is happening. So, well, good. I'm glad you enjoyed your trip. Would you be able to do a virtual roller coaster? Like if you, I don't know if they have them like with the virtual technology where you can do, put on the goggles and do anything.
No, it's funny you say that because I take Arthur to Dave & Buster's every once in a while.
Okay.
And they have a new game there. It's a Godzilla is themed thing, and it's VR. There's 2 chairs, and you get in the chair and you put on the VR helmet. And it's like you're flying the plane and trying to shoot down Godzilla or whatever. Yeah. It's really cool.
Okay.
Like, I can't recommend it enough. If you like amusement parks, video games, anything like that, it's amazing. Arthur was like, this is the coolest thing I've ever seen in my entire life.
All right.
I did it with him, and I got sick immediately.
I'm sure. It sounds like you would.
And he was like, let's do it again. And I was kind of like, I think I can handle one more. Yeah. And any more than that, and I will end up barfing on you. You kind of have to just, okay, deep breath. But yeah, it's... So even the VR will make me sick.
Wow. Yeah. In Omaha at the mall, they had, this is like I think it was in the 90s, they had like a bin. It was like a thing you could get in, like a little, I don't know it wasn't a car, but it was, you got in there and it had a screen and it moved you around and it simulated. It was like old school virtual. It was. Thing. It was like a ride. You just it was sitting there in the middle of the mall. You got in it, and it had the screen, and it was simulating that you were on a roller coaster.
Even like playing cool PlayStation, like first-person video games, where you can't see your character, where it's just your view. I get sick. I can't play those games.
Oh, okay.
So Arthur, like, hey, let's play this game. I'm like, Sorry, dude.
But the
I
games
can't.
where you're going around murdering people, that's
If
fine.
you can see your character, a third-person game,
Yeah.
where you're on the screen,
Yeah.
those I can play. Where it's first-person and you're just seeing it through the character's eyes,
because of the motion.
I don't know. I mean, yeah, but yeah. Right.
Okay.
And I always do. But
Cordell says a lot of them you can switch to
but
third.
the games where they're always first person, like I bought Resident Evil 7 or something because my brother said this is the coolest game ever, and I played it for an hour. I was like, well, I'm never playing this again. That was a waste of $50.
So speaking of video games, it'll be interesting to see how many listens just drop off at this point of the show, because we could just do amusement parks and video games the whole time. How cool do you think it is for North Dakota State that they're on the CFB27?
Pretty cool.
Yeah,
It's pretty cool.
Go on. Why would you say that?
Well, I mean,
because you play those games, don't you?
I do. When the first, because they didn't have the college football game for like 20 years, because that was kind of one of the things where they realized, hey, we're kind of taking advantage of student athletes. They had this college football game for all these years, and they didn't use the players' names, but it was very obvious like who they were. I used to play as Oklahoma, and the running back was whatever number Adrian Peterson was. And it's like, gee, I wonder who this is.
They even use the exact same number.
Yeah, exactly. Well, then I think it was Ed O'Bannon who had his career was over, and he was playing college basketball with his son or something, and it's obviously him in this game. And he's like, this is kind of bullshit. And so he filed the lawsuit, and that led to what we have today with NIL.
Yeah.
And so the NCAA and EA Sports, the company that makes that video game, just kind of said, okay, let's just stop making this game before we get sued. And kind of like, look, that never happened. No, we don't even make those. And so it just disappeared.
Yeah.
And we went without that game for 15 years. And then a couple years ago, when the NIL laws got put into place, they say, okay, we're going to start paying players in a legal way. Then EA Sports is like, okay, I guess we'll make our game again. And don't quote me on the number, but every college athlete in Division I FBS that opts in to say, yes, I give you my permission to be in the game, they are entitled to a free copy of the game and like $640, something. Don't quote me on what the number is, but a somewhat significant chunk of change. And so I bought the first one because it was the first one that had come out in a long time, so it was a big deal. And plus, now with so many local people in, I wanted to see Thomas Heiberger playing for Wisconsin and Jacob Knuth playing for Kansas State, and Mark Gronowski was on Iowa in last year's game, but they didn't put FCS in it. They do have a create team feature, and because everything's online now, people will go on and create, you can create the entire G-Pack if you want to, and people do it.
Yeah.
Like there's not a level of football that someone hasn't created on there. They have like Washington High School is on there. People go on there and create it because they want to play their thing, whatever. Yeah. So that was cool. The first couple of years they had it, I made an article out of it for Sioux Falls Live. Like, hey, here's the SDSU team and the NDSU and USD, because all these people created it, and some of them took the time to create the whole roster and put all 100 players, and the quarterback is number 11, Mark Gronowski. The running back's number 21, Angel Johnson, whoever, blah, blah, blah. And that was cool, but it wasn't as cool as just being on there already as the FBS teams are. Yeah. Well, now North Dakota State has that, and the rest of the Valley does not. They're like, and even last year, Missouri State was on the game. Kennesaw State, Delaware, they were in the game. Yeah. NDSU wasn't. Well, now NDSU is. What is that? I saw Dom's tweet about, like, this is going to mean tons of revenue for NDSU. Is it? I don't know. Maybe it is. But how? I don't know. I just think it's cool. Kids at that age generally have some familiarity with video games. Most kids in their teens and 20s play some video game sometime, I've had conversations with – I remember I had a conversation with Dallas Goddard 10 years ago. I was like, hey, did you see yourself in Madden? And it's like, yeah, that was cool as hell. I'm in Madden. Yeah. And the first couple of years you're in it, you're a nobody, so it's just some generic face. And then after you become kind of a dude, the game developers put in the effort to actually make it look like you. That's kind of when you've arrived. Like, wow. Okay, now it's actually, C.J. Ham, all these dudes, Mason McCormick, they're in Madden now. That's cool. And it's the same thing for college football. I mean, is that I jokingly said a couple of years ago when they announced that they were coming out with this game and they were not going to include FCS teams, I jokingly said, I changed my mind. Now SDSU has to go FBS just so they can be on the video game.
Yeah.
But that's just another thing. That's another one of the things that NDSU is going to be able to say, we have this and you don't.
It all adds up. Yeah, I mean, it's hard to measure that, but some of that all adds up for the athlete.
Yeah.
That would be, is that the make or break deal? Like, that's why you would choose to go to North Dakota
Probably
State over
not.
South Dakota State? No. But you throw that in there with the other cool things, including, as we talked about last time, more games on national TV, even though you think it's a very ill-defined universe of national TV these days. You're on TV a lot more. It's kind of a package that comes with now being at that level. By the way, $1,500 now you get for
wow.
Yes.
That's a significant chunk of change.
Bumped, huh? Yeah, that was
It
bumped
was
up
$600.
in
Okay.
April of 2025. They bumped
I mean,
it up
damn!
to
Just here's
$1,500.
$1,500 just for existing, basically. That's
Yeah.
pretty cool.
Well, then you had a fun joke on Twitter about how much it's going to bring in for Sacramento State now that they're an FBS because of their president that likes to inflate the value of everything they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Zillions of dollars.
Other football revenue. Okay.
So, yeah, Izzo has a column, by the way, on that. Dom Izzo does about just the fact that there is North Dakota State now in the CFB27 game as a real team. Kind of went through some of the history that we just went through. Mm-hmm. So when this Brandon Sorsby news came out yesterday, bombshell, talk of sports, talk of college sports. It's everybody lost their mind, and in a world where it's hard for anybody to agree on anything when it comes to college athletics, everybody's at odds with each other, conference-wise, whatever. Pretty universal. Like, what the hell? Oh my God! This judge provided a temporary injunction, basically to protect Brandon Sorsby, to say you have a case. To appeal the NCAA, which supposedly because everything drags out in court so slowly, he's going to get to play. Mm-hmm. And Texas Tech's going to let him play even though they don't have to.
Right.
But $90,000 worth of bets, 9,000 bets, some of them while in Indiana, betting on Indiana. I know you're a big baseball guy in the history of baseball. Every sport, but particularly baseball with its history of gambling scandals. What did you make of all this? What was ruled and what's happening and how people reacted?
I guess Pete Rose should have just said, I have a gambling problem instead of denying it.
I've got an addiction.
Yeah,
I need help.
I need treatment.
Yes.
Yeah, and he would have been fine.
Because that's partly what the judge ruled is irreparable, I think, damage. Because it is a condition like alcoholism. We all acknowledge it. We could talk about that too. But there's a loophole there. There's an in that says this kid clearly has a problem, could be biological, and he needs help, he needs treatment, and we can't deny him. Not allowing him to do this would cause irreparable damage. It's okay if you don't agree with that.
No, I don't. I don't agree with it.
I'm not saying I do.
It's just such a the whole. Gambling being legal now, sports gambling, and how quickly it has taken over sports, whether it's these little micro bets that you can do or just you watch a game now and it's nothing but, FanDuel and this, that, and the other. And it's really, I'm generally pretty liberal when it comes to your vices are your problem, and it's not the government's job to step in and say you can't do it. I'm in favor of legalizing just about anything that can be legalized. So I'm not saying necessarily that gambling should be illegal again, but it certainly has not been a positive addition to the sports world, the sports landscape. And I say that before even kind of becoming aware until recently how much it's affecting young people. I always just thought of how it affects everyday Joes like us, who are gambling away that month's mortgage or, having financial difficulties because of shit like that.
Living a secret second life,
right,
like you're having
right,
an affair with someone.
Right,
it's with
right.
your bets.
I never really even considered, teenagers, college kids, active players, and now finding out how pervasive it is and what a big deal it is, and that's really gross.
Yeah.
So I'm sympathetic to this kid a little bit. And I stress a little bit because he chose to do this. I don't want to hear that, I have a problem. Well, you didn't have a problem before you started gambling. You took on a problem intentionally.
Open the Pandora's box.
Yeah, and, letting him play again, it's just such a whiplash sort of thing for people in our age demographic because, like you said, we grew up in this era where we were told that was the worst thing you can do.
Yeah.
You know? And I always thought that was a little, like, is it really that bad? You know, like you can beat the shit out of your wife and get an 8-game suspension, but you bet on a game and you're banned for life. And I get why. Beating your wife doesn't impact the outcome of the games. And
right.
there's it's two different things. They're not saying one's worse than the other. You're saying one impacts the game, the other doesn't. So I understand that. But I just always kind of felt, and plus, like with Pete Rose, it was like, well, didn't he bet on the Reds?
On
Like,
that's the word on, just like Sorsby.
but I mean, like, if he bet on his team to win, is it really that bad?
That's what I meant. He bet on them, not against them.
Right.
And you're the manager. You
Right.
bet against your team, and you're the manager. Now we got real.
Right. But I was just kind of, well, if he's betting on him, doesn't that just mean he's a psychopath? You know,
Yeah.
that he's. But then other people explain to me, like, well, but that will still impact. You know, it could impact how he manages the game because
Also,
he might ride a pitcher longer than he normally would because he
there's-
needs to win.
Yeah,
Or
and there are some days where he didn't bet on them.
Right.
I'm guessing he didn't bet on every game.
Right,
So
because he's like,
I
we're
don't
throwing our
think
fifth starter
that's
today. I'm not
looking
going to.
good. Yes.
Right.
That's not cool either.
Right. So eventually, I kind of was like, okay, I get it. I get it why this is so bad.
But I'm with you.
But it's weird now that we're saying, okay, this one of the greatest baseball players of all time was kicked out of the sport entirely and just blacklisted, and you can't even go to a game. Pete Rose wasn't even allowed in the ballpark.
Yeah.
Let alone, playing or managing or whatever. And I hate Pete Rose. This is not about defending Pete Rose.
Yeah.
He's a scumbag, and I don't have any sympathy for him. But that always just seemed wild. Like, okay, really? We're going that far. That's how bad what he did apparently was. And now, 40 years later, this college kid does it, and it's like, you got a 2-game suspension, and you poor thing, go get some treatment, and we'll welcome you back with open arms. Like, again, whiplash. I'm just, how did we get from here to here?
Yeah.
That's wild to me. And I get it. We're kind of in this era now where the courts are just basically saying, the NCAA isn't allowed to do anything that might hurt someone's feelings. And that's conflicting because we all hated the NCAA for all these years, and now it's kind of like, well, okay, we hate them, but they should still be allowed to have some rules, right? Like, we're all trying to get our arms around what is happening to college sports because we all thought the NCAA is corrupt. It's a garbage system that has profited off of kids for 100 years.
And now powerless.
And fuck them, and there's no sympathy for them. You're terrible people who have been, taking advantage of these kids for all these years. You get everything that's coming to you. Well, now we've been doing this for a few years, and it's kind of like, okay, maybe this wasn't quite all right. Maybe we should walk this back a little bit. Maybe there should be some rules, and we can't figure out how to do that. And the courts are kind of saying, well, now that Pandora's box is open, you can't go back at all, and so now there's just no rules, and everyone's kind of looking around, going, what are we doing here? And you see it all the time on social media, people saying like, I'm done with this. College sports is dead to me, or college sports is never going to be what it used to be, and I don't know where I land on that. But I do think letting this kid play when he bet on his own games seems like, slippery slope doesn't quite cut it. It's more than that. But to get ahead of you, because I know this is going to be sort of your next question, is like these schools that are coming out and saying, well, we're just not going to play you. Screw Texas Tech. That's the way to do it. Like, you're not powerless. The courts can say, you can't do this, you can't do that, but that doesn't mean that your peers can't say, all right, fine. If you legally are allowed to do this, well, we are not legally required to entertain that. We are not legally required to go along with it. So if the rest of the Big 12, are they in the Big 12 or the SEC?
They are the Big 12.
Yeah, if the rest of the Big 12 says, screw you, you're out, we're not playing you. Yeah. That's the way that you're going to have to handle things like this.
Well, apparently they're going to get together pretty soon, some leaders of the Big 12. And
my hunch is this kid's going to end up not playing. I think the other schools are going to collude to create a situation where it's like, how much is this kid really worth to you?
Yeah.
Are you really going to push this through, or do we have to literally boycott you, essentially kick you out of the Big 12 to get you to tell this kid, hey, sorry, you gambled, you can't play anymore?
But what do you make of the notion that, okay, well, on this particular topic, most people agree with everything you said. He shouldn't be allowed to play, and that is, everything you said is fine, except for what school involved in the lawless, powerless NCAA era that we're in right now doesn't have some skeletons in the closet. I mean, I don't think Texas Tech would come back and say, oh, wait a second, Kansas State, and wait a second, Cincinnati, or whoever else is in their league. But it's like everybody's, and we're going to eventually get to the UND thing in a moment, but everybody's kind of playing by lawless lack of rules anyway, and bending rules. And do you really want you want your skeletons to come out? Because everybody has some dirt on everybody else, especially in the recruiting world.
I don't know. You're probably right about that, but this is obviously a bridge too far, or whatever. Like, this is kind of like, okay, we all agree that, there are certain things that happen, and what degree you let it slide under the rug or whatever. But again, this is the big one. This is the cardinal sin. This is the affecting the integrity of the game. Yeah. This is directly, again, it's the whole, when Pete Rose was going through his thing, that was always the message. Like, there's a sign on every door in Major League stadiums. Like, this is the number one cardinal rule. You don't break it. If you break it, you go straight to hell. That's how bad this rule is. And he broke it, and he's not even getting punished. So I'm not surprised that schools are getting together and saying, hey, this is the line. This is where we don't tolerate it anymore. Because you remember during basketball season, the kid that came back from the G League to play for Alabama, he had I don't know if he got drafted, but he played professional basketball and came back to play for Alabama. I could not believe, A, that was allowed.
Yeah.
B, that Alabama's coach was shameless enough to do it. And it's funny that now these teams are getting together and saying, what if we all got together and said, screw you, Texas Tech, we're not going to play you. I thought the SEC should have done the same thing when Alabama brought that kid back. You brought a kid back from the G League to play college basketball? What does he suddenly decide he needs his economics degree? Get out of here. Yeah. I couldn't believe that the rest of the SEC just going, okay. Because that would have been my reaction. It's like, okay, if a court said this is legal, fine, we're not playing you. We'll forfeit if we have to. We are not playing your team when you have a professional basketball player on your team. And, that's a whole separate issue. That also pisses me off, and that's going to be addressed at some point. But I think there's the potential here that what the Big 12 is threatening to do to Texas Tech, I think could set a good precedent where if schools are going to there's just no rules. We do whatever we want, Because at what point does it get far enough that, okay, college football is now a professional league of its own? So what's to stop Michigan from signing Tom Brady to play again? Like, hey, it's just another professional league. We're just hiring you to do a job. You don't have to go to class. Like, there's got to be a line somewhere. And if the courts can't enforce it, using this sort of boycott method is a way to sort of get around it and enforce it by saying, we're not going to let you do this. And I think that's a good thing. I think they should do that.
By the way, your SEC and Alabama basketball thing, just my guess, the reason why they went, okay, is again, maybe all the
we'll
programs
do it too.
had all kinds, or maybe all those programs had all kinds of skeletons in their closets that others could use against them. I mean, it's the SEC. No one confuses them for the pillar of morality over there. And I just get a kick out of it. Like Nebraska's AD, they're not. Texas Tech isn't on the schedule, but just to go, none of our programs are going to play Texas Tech. Your explanation makes sense, but there's part of me that it kind of feels like you're kind of doing this just to look good. You're taking a stand and looking like.
I don't interpret it that way at all.
Okay. By the way, Gene Taylor of Kansas State, the former North Dakota State athletic director, hard to find a stronger reaction than Gene's. Matt just said it. It's effing bull bleep. I know the kid has a problem. Get well and focus on your problem. It's absolutely devastating for him to be able to play when every other sport, no matter the level, deems an athlete ineligible or they are punished severely for betting on their team. I guess the bleeping bleep was the worst that he said, but I can imagine him saying it. He's a guy whose face gets pretty red pretty easily, so we'll find out what happens there. Now, and certainly in the same time frame, within 3 days, of the University of North Dakota getting some penalties, which are debatable how harsh and impactful they are, for quote-unquote tampering. And I laugh at this because, well, there's a lot of reasons. But quarterback's coach was talking to a player at Riverside Junior College in California during the season. When he wasn't in the portal window wasn't open and blah, blah, blah. And he told a compliance person that. The compliance person said, we're going to have to tell the NCAA. They self-report this, and the NCAA comes down with some infractions, only one of which seems to be particularly impactful. We'll get to that in a moment. What was your reaction to all this? Certainly you hold it up against the Sorsby
The same
thing,
as everybody else.
and
It's
you
like,
go,
you choose to pick on North Dakota.
Yeah.
Like, of all the stuff that we know is going on somewhere. And, the message is ultimately don't self-report. If North Dakota had not self-reported it, they wouldn't have got punished.
Sorry.
It's almost like they're saying to him, like, well, if you're going to tell us that you're cheating, then we have to punish you.
Sorry.
Do you not know how phones work? Push that button on the side and it shuts off
I
immediately.
did. Keep going. It'll be worth it.
But it just sort of says, well, we don't want to punish you, but if you tell us you cheated, then we have to. Just keep it under the rug like everybody else does, and we won't punish you.
Yeah. Well, there's a line by Jerry Tarkanian, and I was trying to find it on my phone, but the old UNLV coach who always had his little skirmishes with the law, with the NCAA, is like, it was something like, name a great, Kentucky, because they blue blood in basketball. Kentucky broke the law, so let's punish Cleveland State again.
Right.
Something like
Right.
that. That was Tarkanian's old
Right.
line. But did you look into the penalties they got and
No.
if this is really going to affect them?
It sounded like it was mostly slap on the wrist
It was
stuff.
mostly slap on the wrist. The one, I'll cut through to the one where it might impact them, is they're basically not allowed to talk to transfers in the first week when the portal window opens, and that's January of 2027. After this,
That'll probably hurt.
I mean, the window is, I believe, 2 weeks long, and that's it. And they are not allowed to have contact with recruits. And while we all kind of laugh and snicker because a lot of programs sidestep tampering rules, they're going to be watched closely upon. They probably literally will not contact and be in contact during the legal opening. And so a point that I made yesterday is when you think about how close North Dakota was to being an MVFC contender, an FCS, and therefore an FCS national championship contender last year. They were 8-6. 5 of their losses, all 5 in the regular season, were by 5 points or less. And that's to North Dakota State, who was number 1 until they got upset. Illinois State,
Yotes and the Jacks,
who were the national runner-up. Montana, they lost by a point. They lost by a field goal to Kansas State. They were really good and close. They just, they were, what do we always say? 1 play, 2 play, 3 plays, or maybe 1, 2, or 3 players away. And now North Dakota State's not in the league anymore. Like, they had a lot of good momentum to where here's more checkpoints. They're becoming a true contender. But if you it's not going to affect them this season because this season's roster is determined. But you're trying to get transfers to make an immediate impact. And think about not being able to talk to guys that you really want to come in and make an immediate impact for a week, and you've got, you're behind on a lot of different players to a lot of different schools. It might affect their chances of getting that 1 or 2 players away from making the
they'll
plays.
just have to figure out a way around it.
Yeah.
They'll have to come up with, they have a whole year to prepare for that scenario when it arrives. So
Yeah.
I'm sure they'll come up with a plan and figure it out. I don't know that it's going to be a kneecapping kind of thing, but it's certainly an inconvenience.
Then there's one question I asked a college football coach was, how much do you think this will impact their recruiting? Because, they now have an NCAA violation on their tab, the parents maybe of some of these athletes.
Nobody gives a shit about that.
Yeah, that's basically
Yeah.
what was said.
Yeah.
Like, these kids just they don't care. They're trying to get a scholarship. And
Well, and plus what they did wasn't like amoral, you
Yeah.
know? It was just like,
Yeah.
we accidentally called this guy too early.
Yeah.
Like,
Yep, we all get it. How much NBA Finals are you watching?
watched the game last night.
Yeah.
It's kind of funny. It's shaping up to be like that Astros Nationals World Series where the road team won every game. I really felt like the Knicks had a chance to end it, essentially. Last night, you win the first 2 on the road, come home for the first finals game at Madison Square Garden and however long. And I'm not saying, but it's a series now. You win that game, it's over. And now it's a whole new ball game.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, they got to go back to San Antonio at least once. New York's in trouble, obviously. If they don't win Game 4, it's tied, and now San Antonio has the home court advantage, and it's best 2 out of 3. It's And it saw the pressure is on New York. But, of course, the series within the series is Karl Anthony Towns and Wemby. And Cat just owned the guy for the first 2 games. And so immediately it's like, wow. Well, that's how you beat him, is you take a 7-foot guy who's got a little more muscle on him and has been around the block a few times and rough him up a little bit. And so you thought, well, if the Knicks just keep doing that, they're going to win this series. Turns out, I texted Chris Johnson about this. He USF's coach, and he said
he hates Cat. He's biased.
No. He actually, you'll find this interesting because this. I'll just cut to the chase of. How do Timberwolves fans see this now? Because all of a sudden, 2 years after the trade, there's a little bit of trader's remorse or revisionist history. Like, hey, he dominated Wemby for 2 games. Maybe he would have done that for the Wolves against the Spurs in the playoffs. The Spurs.
It was a pretty good trade for both sides. I know it's not what you asked, but
yeah. Well, for one, Cordell had a good point. Anybody who watched that series with the Spurs has a good point. The Wolves lost to the Spurs, number one, not just one reason, but the number one reason, health. I mean, you didn't have Dante. Your Cat was about 50% maybe. Basically, didn't have any legs. There were a couple others, but, I mean, Dante's a huge, he's their most difference-making player, plus-minus-wise. They didn't have him. It probably would have been a different series. But then there was just the fact that at some point, if you don't make a trade with Cat, you have Cat and Ant on the roster with Rudy and Jaden. It's just they're way over the cap. Like they had to make some roster moves. They couldn't keep everybody, and they probably couldn't keep Ant and Cat at the same time. But then guess what happens in Game 3? The Spurs. What do you know? There is coaching in the NBA. They make an adjustment. They don't even put Wemby on Cat to defend Cat, and then the Knicks just forgot Cat existed. He barely touched the ball in the fourth quarter. So Spurs won. It's 2-1.
Yeah.
As a Wolves fan, are you cheering for Cat?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. He was a great player for the Wolves. I mean, he had his ups and downs. He wasn't perfect by any means, but I enjoyed watching him. When they traded him, I was like, what? And, like I said, it's worked out, I think, pretty well for both teams. But like I was saying last week, the Knicks have never really been good in my lifetime, so I'm kind of rooting for them. I think it'll be a fun story. I don't get all caught up in all the celebrities that are there and everything like that. But I was saying, I was at a bar with a buddy watching the game last night, and we were talking about it, and I was like, regardless of what you think about Spike Lee, is there a more diehard fan anywhere in the world than Spike Lee for the Knicks? How can you not kind of root for a guy like that to be rewarded? That's like Spike Lee to the Knicks is like me to the Vikings, or some Cubs fan that waited till 2014 or whatever year it was to see their team win a World Series. That's a cool story. I hope the Knicks win. I've seen the Spurs win it 5 times already in my life. I don't need to see them win another one. No. I want to see the Knicks win.
Okay.
And I'm rooting for Cat. He's a good dude and a good player.
Yeah, he's always there's plenty of evidence if you dig enough of him being a really good dude outside the sport.
And I would say this too. He was a number 1 draft pick, and coming from a blue blood college, a big time star coming out of college. Those were the guys that used to be like, I don't want to go to Minnesota. I don't want to play there. Or as soon as my rookie contract's up, I'm bouncing. He was one of the first guys to say I like it here. I'm perfectly happy to play in Minnesota and make it to where you didn't have – because there was a kind of a period there in the aughts and into the teens where you sort of had this mentality in the NBA that if you didn't get to play in LA or Miami or New York, it's like you weren't even in the NBA.
Yeah, you're in Siberia.
Yeah, it's like every other team is terrible. We all want to play for one of these teams. And I remember being like, well, what are we even doing here? And Cat and some other – Giannis in Milwaukee what's his name going to Toronto? I mean, there were a lot of guys that just kind of said, you know what, screw that. We don't all have to be in some media mecca or some beach town. It's perfectly fine to be the superstar in Minnesota or Milwaukee or Detroit or whatever. And so I will always be kind of grateful to Cat that he was the guy who kind of said, there's nothing wrong with Minnesota. You can come here and have a perfectly great time being an NBA player, and we can contend here.
Yeah, He probably wasn't complaining when he got traded to New York, which,
I don't think
by the way,
so.
he's from New Jersey, so he's right there.
But he never was like, I want out of here.
No,
and
you're right.
a lot of guys either were, I want out of here, or I don't want to go there to begin with. And he was never, ever like that, and I appreciated that about him.
You wonder, Anthony Edwards and Cat were really good friends. They would ride to the games together, supposedly.
What if Ant had showed up and the messaging had been, this place sucks.
Yeah.
I can't wait to sign with Miami, and I can't wait to sign with Golden State. Ant might have been like, yeah, this place does suck. I don't want to play here. Get me out of my rookie contract so I can,
If you were Ant, though, are you now mad that the Wolves made the trade, or maybe they should have traded Rudy instead? He's seeing everything. Well, before I get to all that, you can answer that, but everything seems to have changed with Game 3. It looked like the Knicks were just going to coast and Cat was going to dominate, and wow, what a bunch of idiots the Wolves were for trading him away.
Are people saying that?
Well, I think some are. Yes.
What? Are they?
I
mean, the Wolves have made it farther with Rudy than they ever did before.
What's that?
The Wolves have made it farther with Rudy than they ever did before.
Well, with Rudy and Cat, they obviously made a conference finals with Rudy and without
that's right. That's
Cat.
right. I forgot that he was on that.
I mean, it's kind of the score's even here. They've made a conference finals with Cat and without one, but he's having a breakout performance. It's either you could be mad at the Wolves or you could possibly.
I mean, Jalen Brunson's pretty good too. I don't know.
Right.
We're making it like it's Cat that's doing this by himself.
Well, he would probably. For
I understand
the first two
that.
games, he was the MVP. But and then when it becomes too Brunson centric, like last night, we saw how the Knicks fall apart. But you could also be mad at Cat. I'm just saying could. If you're an emotional fan, because he has learned clearly that's the narrative, and it didn't start happening until the last couple months. He has learned that he's not the centerpiece anymore. He's a part, but like this is Brunson's team. Be a good number 2. He averaged 7 assists in the first 2 games, both wins, and scored a bunch of points. But he has shown a level of maturity that supposedly he didn't quite have when he sucked the air out of the ball a lot and made really.
And part of the reason that you're
Minnesota.
hearing this is because Julius Randle had a shitty playoffs this year. If he hadn't, that's probably where
that's
it's
a fair
coming from.
point.
That's what he was traded for. I
Yeah.
mean, so.
That's a fair point. If Julius holds up his end of the bargain, we don't have to deflect or project anger onto Cat. He just, then there's, again, this is stuff, I hear on podcasts where fans make points, hosts make points, that the coaching, like somehow Mike Brown and the Knicks have found a way to help Cat break through and show the kind of maturity to be a better team player. Now he's on a better team that's in the finals and was on its way to winning them. To whereas, does it upset you as a Wolves fan that Chris Finch couldn't get through to him like that, or he couldn't mature under Finch?
I think you've officially taken this further than it needs to be analyzed.
I think it's
fun.
I okay. I'm not going to ask Cordell to settle the score on that.
I just don't think it's that deep. It's that deep.
Okay.
Sometimes
Fair.
you win, sometimes
well,
you lose.
and then if the Spurs come back and win this thing, then it's it was all it was all forgotten anyway.
I mean, the Knicks have other good players besides Cat, is all I'm saying.
Yeah,
and the Wolves had and have other good players besides him too. I mean,
all right. Stacey King, I wanted to make sure to ask you about this. You tweeted about him. Mm-hmm. So Stacey King, I was a huge Bulls fan growing up, and also I hated Oklahoma because I was a Nebraska fan, but he was a huge player for Oklahoma. Billy Tubbs, when they scored like 100 zillion points a game, and he was a stud in college, just best player in the country. Goes and becomes a role player for some championships.
So he was kind of a bust in the NBA.
Yeah, he was just a role player. I mean, you have Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen there.
I mean, he ended up playing for the Skyforce.
And then he comes to
National
Sioux
College
Falls.
Players of the Year are not supposed to end up playing in the CBA.
Right. Back in a time where it's kind of like minor league baseball as well, you just saw more of the famous guys come through Sioux Falls. So you were alive and well, and I know you tweeted something about this. He's been I knew that he was like the Bulls' local analyst. Mm-hmm. I didn't. Now, just having read and heard some things, how beloved he was. Like he was really good at that. Mm-hmm. We didn't know because he was just the Bulls guy. He wasn't a national guy. But apparently he was entertaining, he said sharp things, and just a really likable fella, and I guess that was the way he was in Sioux Falls.
Yeah, I would assume Stu has some pretty good stories about him from when he was covering the Skyforce for the Argus. When Stacey King came to the Skyforce, it was kind of after their real glory days when they'd won their championships with Tony Harris and Henry James and A.C. Caldwell and Tony Farmer and Cedric Hunter and all those names I could go. Stacey King came a little after that. But he was one of the biggest names to ever come there because, like I said, he had been this college superstar at Oklahoma who had played with the Michael Jordan Bulls, won NBA championship rings, I think. And then it's like Stacey King is playing for the Skyforce. Like, what? And he was a great CBA player, obviously. 20 points a game kind of dude. And I don't remember if it was 1 year or 2 years with the Skyforce.
One. It says it was
so
one.
he was still, young enough to be trying to keep his career going. And I want to say it was the Boston Celtics that offered him a 10-day contract because that was back in the day where.
Yes, Dallas and Boston.
Okay, well, I think he took one of them. I think he went and because the 10-day contracts were the whole thing. The CBA, there was no G League back then, so the CBA was kind of like the NBA's minor league, but it was not affiliated.
Yeah.
So you weren't like, oh, we're calling this guy up. They were all free agents. And the 10-day contract was the magic. That's what you were trying to get if you're a CBA guy. And they were pretty common. 10 days, you're probably going to play 2 or 3 games. Usually it was just like, hey, we need a spot on the bench for a couple weeks. But sometimes it was like, it was a tryout.
Tim Legler famously fought his way.
Sometimes it was like, hey,
NBA
we want to
that.
see what you can do here.
Yeah.
You got 10 days to show us.
Yeah.
Well, Stacey King had already been in the NBA and kind of been, like I said, been more or less a bust.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty sure, if my memory serves, he got a 10-day contract during the season, went to play for whatever team it was. 10 days expired, came back to the Skyforce, maybe even got another 10-day contract. But anyway, by the time he's back for the Skyforce, they're making this run. They're in first place in the conference.
Okay.
They're making a run towards the CBA title. And right before the playoffs start, Boston offers him a 10-day contract. And I don't think it was quite as altruistic as it is remembered. I think there might have been some money involved, that it was like either I want more money or maybe it was he wanted to be guaranteed that he would stay for the rest of the season. Like, if it's just 10 days, I don't want, like, if you're signing me for the rest of the season, I'll do it. But if it's 10 days, screw you, I'm going back to Sioux Falls because we're playing for a title. Well, you can imagine how it got spun. It was like, I'm all about Sioux Falls winning a championship. Said no to the Celtics, comes back. I don't think they won it that year. In fact, I know they didn't.
Yeah.
But for him to say no to the NBA, which, again, he had the ability to do that because he was already rich from playing for the Bulls for 5 or 6 years or whatever. But it was still a really cool story. He said no to the NBA to try and win a title, a CBA championship for the Skyforce. And then largely because of that, they gave him a shot to be their coach a few years later. Yeah. And he was a complete failure as a coach. He just was not cut out for it. And I think both he and the Skyforce recognized that right away, and they made a change. But it was not a bitter divorce. It was very much like, this guy is part of the Sioux Falls Skyforce family. He was very much like, I'll always love Sioux Falls. Yeah. He's always been kind of a legendary dude for people who followed the Skyforce through that era. And to hear that he's this super popular and beloved, charismatic TV guy is not the least bit surprising to anyone who remembered him when he was in Sioux Falls, because that was what he gave off when he was in Sioux Falls, both as a player. Like I said, I'm sure Stu has all sorts of good stories about interacting with him. When he was the coach, he didn't win any games, but everyone liked him. Yeah. He was just this really likable, carefree sort of, I have a great life and I never have a bad day sort of dude.
That's awesome.
And, so we were actually at the Twins game when I just happened to check my phone in a lull in the game. Stacey King dead at 59. I told my dad, and he's like, no. Because,
wow.
Yeah. I mean,
your dad went to a lot of Skyforce games.
Season ticket holder.
Yeah, by the way, he was with the Skyforce twice, once in 97, and then the Mavs and Celtics 10-day call-ups happened. He came back in 98, like the next season. So short stints with the Skyforce twice. Passed away at the age of 59. And since you did mention it, I will be talking to Stu very soon, and I'll have to bring up Stacey King because, as you know, Stu has a book out. It's out.
I got a copy of it. I haven't read it yet, but
I've dug in. Boy, Bob Burns came from a very interesting family. I'll put it that way. Stu will be with us in a week or two. This is probably the last one. We haven't chatted since we talked all about Coach Piv and USD softball. Robert Wagner getting released. We both thought Coach Piv was the rightful or would be a good hire. Obviously, we didn't know the other candidates John Schemmel was interviewing on his national search, but it ends up back at Piv, and we both liked it, and a lot of people in our sports community happy for her, and think she'll do well.
Yeah, I was a little that they didn't announce it right away, you know. I was kind of like, maybe they don't want to do that. Maybe they want to go in a different direction.
According to her, they did spend 2 weeks and did look at other candidates.
Well, that just makes her all the more locked in as the right candidate if they entertained other options and went with her. And you listened in on her press conference the day she got hired. I mean, I think she's learned a lot, you know. Yeah. She I think USF probably made I'll go ahead and say it. I think they made a mistake letting her go.
I agree.
And
considering what's happened there since, it hasn't gotten any better.
The guy they got in there now seems to have it on the right track, but they went backwards after they got rid of her.
Yeah, it always says something when they get worse after you leave.
It just seemed like you have someone from the premier college softball program in the region here, South Dakota State was at the time, and they got rid of her to hire someone from Briar Cliff. Come on.
Yeah. Yep.
But anyway, worked out for her in the end. She gets to go to USD and she mentioned this when I asked, take a step back and say, okay, I've been a head coach now. I have that experience under my belt. Now I'll take a step back, learn some things from a guy, Robert Wagner, who, won a national championship at Arizona State. I'm sure he's got some things to teach you. Yeah. And now she goes back into it, and now she's doing it at Division I level. She couldn't have worked out better for her.
Yep, and we think she'll do well. This keeps the momentum going with recruiting. She retained 100% of the recruits that they had committed to next year, but she did not keep the best player, the number one player. That was why USD went on that tear, won the Summit League, threatened Nebraska, beat Louisville, and that's Madison Evans. The pitcher is transferring to the same team that knocked out USD in Lincoln, Grand Canyon University in Phoenix.
Figured that was happening. That's too bad for them, but good for her.
Yeah, it's great for her. That's a great up and coming Division I school with obviously a lot of money. I mean, it's a private school that has a lot of money, that's thrown a lot of money and been on the radar. Men's and women's teams have made NCAA tournaments in basketball, and that's where she will be going. So, anything else on your mind? Twins. I was watching that game on Sunday that you were at, and I just happened to be watching when, first of all, I'm not a regular Twins watcher. I would be if they were relevant and fun. But we were Gilbert and I were at a bar watching the Twins, and like, Royce Lewis is playing? I thought, what?
Yeah.
He's back?
Yeah.
He gets a hit. Boy, did he, you could just tell the look on his face. Like, he gets a single, and it's like, wow.
Well, they
fireworks.
I think, intended him to spend most of the rest of the summer in St. Paul.
Yeah.
Well, then he hit 8 home runs in 10 games in St. Paul. I mean, it was ridiculous. And James Outman is hitting 100. There's no point in having him on the roster. So they made that switch. He's back. We'll see if he actually fixed himself or whatever. But I did think he just had – you mentioned he had the one hit, but he had 4 good at-bats. He looked much more competitive. His pitch recognition seems to improve. Because that was his last couple at-bats before they sent him down. I mean, he was just taking 90-mile-an-hour fastballs right down the middle and chasing sliders in the dirt. It's like he's just guessing. Like, he doesn't even know what –
Yeah.
I was impressed with his at-bats on Sunday, so that, to me, is encouraging. I'm not suddenly thinking, oh, he's going to be the Royce Lewis of 2022 again or 2023, but he had some good at-bats.
All right. I mean, I got to see you at the Canaries game. There's another Monday 11:05 game.
Next Monday?
On Monday, yeah. I know how you like to go
probably.
to those afternoon games. Canaries will have a 7-game homestand starting on Friday. Big Friday and Saturday night games, and domestics 350 before first pitch if you come out early and have a couple or as many beers as you would like at a Sioux Falls Canaries game. They are back in town for some summer fun. Well, I guess I'll see you there. Thanks for being here, as always.
Thanks for having me, John.
I'll let you get back out to your fishing.
I got to go to Arthur's game.
Oh, okay. Good luck to Arthur's game. For Cordell Wright and the Gateway Lounge and Matt, cheers.
Why are you laughing?
That was a terrible outro.
You.
Does he know how to round drinks?
Yes.